Body shot, ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. Yet another week, back-to-back weeks. UFC Vegas 59 and UFC London number 2, Volume 2, Version 2. We have marred main events. We have anticlimactic main events. First, it was Yair Rodriguez receiving a TKO win over a shoulder pop from Brian Ortega. Now it's Curtis Blaydes receiving a TKO win over a blown-out knee from Tom Aspinall in London. You hate it. You hate to see it. But this is back-to-back weeks, you know what I mean? So something's got to give. Hopefully the next week we have Juliana Pena versus Amanda Nunes number 2. We're not going to have this streak of luck going anymore. But we did have some good fights overall. Started off as a snoozer on the prelims, picked it up on the main card. Paddy Pimblett and Molly McCann showed up and showed out, all the fun stuff. Now let me bring in my co-host, the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber, brother. We're 0-0 on the scoreboard now, my man. 89-50 apiece. You went 3-3. I went 4-2 on the money lines this week. But we're back to square, brother. How are you feeling? I told you I was creeping up on you.
Creeping up, brother. It's rough because it's, like you said, it's an anticlimactic win or anticlimactic main event. Yeah. Gets us back to 0-0. Kind of feels, just like everything just thrown up in the air, if you will. Like it is what it is. Now the cards are on the table, fresh week, going back at it. Yeah. And I agree with you. I'd be very surprised if Juliana Pena, Amanda Nunes was also a dud out there as well, man. How you feeling?
Yeah, no, we gotta get our luck reset, you know what I mean, and go in strong for UFC 277. But yeah, man, I don't know how to feel, to be honest with you, because we were talking a little bit when the mics were cold, and we were saying that it's like, can you have an educated opinion on what happened in the 15 seconds that took place in the main event? I don't think you can. I don't think it's fair to either fighter to sit here and be like, oh, but you saw that 1-2 Curtis landed? He clearly would have ran away with it. It's just like there's no way to tell. There's honestly no way to tell. The biggest thing that we have to take away from this, though, AJ, isn't necessarily that 15 seconds transpired and that was that and here's the result. The biggest thing we need to take away is that Curtis Blaydes, when he was asked in the post-fight presser, would you entertain a rematch with Tom Aspinall? He says, I'm not risking my ranking. I won the fight. Now, that's a fair take, right? On one hand, that's a fair take. You already risked your ranking in the first place. You were already, number 4 in the world. You fought down. You fought number 6. And now he's looking forward to fighting the winner of Tai Tuivasa versus Cyril Gane, which is supposed to be happening in a couple events from now. But do you think that, it's such a lost opportunity for Tom Aspinall. It's not his fault, right? But this is the same thing with Brian Ortega. Like, Brian Ortega and Yair Rodriguez, when they were talking about rematch, Rodriguez was down all day. So how is this different?
Man, I don't think it's different. I think it's just Curtis Blaydes is making a business move. Yeah. He's saying, I won, fuck it, I don't want a rematch, bro. I beat this dude up. Yeah, so I don't think it's different at all with the two fighters. Yeah. I just think Curtis is thinking a little more ahead and kind of, looking out for himself and what his is. So you can't get mad at him for it, but I agree. I don't think it seems unjust to not give the rematch,
No, I do feel you. I absolutely agree with you on one hand, because I told you going into this one, and I'm glad that my logical brain, helped me out on this one, because I said my heart, my soul, everything, I wanted Tom Aspinall to win really bad, but my wallet, I wanted Curtis Blaydes to win, and I'm glad he won because I cashed back in on my bets. I was having a little rough night at the office, you know what I'm saying? We'll talk about all that in 1 second, but I guess the point that we have here is that anything could happen in combat sports, so you have to be ready for the inevitable. You have to be ready for anything that can go down, and I think we saw that with many of these events. Talking about the Paul Craig Volkan Oezdemir event, we're talking about Nikita Krylov, Alexander Gustafsson. We're gonna break all of this stuff down in just one moment, but before we do that, I do need to give a heads up one more time. AJ is streaming on Twitch at the Santa Fe Bomber, right? So you can catch him breaking down live streams. We're gonna try to incorporate some what do you call that, AJ? Super stream, super duel, what do you call that?
Squad streaming.
There we go.
Squad streaming, where both of us have the same, we're ball talking at the same time, both looking at the same thing. Yeah.
Exactly. So we're gonna try to get on that hype more and more. Now, folks, I want to push his Twitch right now, Santa Fe Bomber, because mine is a little bit up in the air. I might have to make a new one. Word came down, man. I tried to do a little fight companion with you guys over on my Tap Napper Snap Twitch stream, and let's just say Uncle Dana found me, and you know what I mean? He took some action against me. So right now things are in limbo. By the time that we record the next episode, I will have a definitive answer with whether I have a new Twitch stream or whether I'm back on the same old. Either way, this is the plan moving forward. And if that's the more personable, AJ, would you agree? That's the more personable stream. That's the more you get our personality. You get just how we doing on the day-to-day. This is the more professional, more analytical, but more thought out. That is the raw take, raw emotion. What's the benefit of that, AJ?
Well, I also like it because you get a chance to talk with it and discuss, man. You hit up in the chat, you drop in, just type some stuff out, man. It's literally like me and you were talking, and you have an opinion on what we're watching, especially for the stuff where we're breaking down fights and you're actually watching the fights like with us. It is it gives you another chance to actually have a little bit of input, to talk about some stuff. When I was watching the prelims, one of the homies, Travi, shout out Travi, he was in there, man, giving his like, oh yeah, no, I did a 3-fight parlay, blah, blah, blah. You just have a little bit of input, so you get that. You also get the insider view. You get something that's not really, as like Derick said, as professional as this, where we're just telling you just basic facts. It's an actual raw emotion, literally the thought process you can see unfolding. You get a little something extra, man. It's nice. Tune in, like Derick said, twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber. And when his gets up and running, he'll be doing the exact same thing, man. It's a lot of fun out there. I'm dropping it in the chat.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to hide from Uncle Dana next time, you know what I'm saying? But for now, that is the move right there. So raw emotion, real-time breakdown, that's what we're here on the Twitch stream. But we're here at the Bloody Water Podcast for a reason, so let's talk about it a little bit, AJ. Before we drop into the prop recaps and all that good stuff, all the betting wagering recaps, listen, man, we had no fight of the night. And I think that this is Uncle Dana saying that, listen, I'm generous. I think this is the mind of him, right? He wasn't even there at the event, but he was like, I'm generous when it comes down to handing out performance bonuses when people really put on a show. The last UFC London card, there was 1 million bonuses handed out. But no fight of the night. There was 4 performance bonuses, or actually 5 of them. Curtis Blaydes, which is kind of interesting. You get a performance bonus for not really doing anything, right? Paddy Pimblett, Nikita Krylov, Molly McCann notches her second spinning back elbow KO in a row. And then Jonathan Pearce, JSP. So I think, AJ, I think it's fair to say that it delivered on my sleeper. And I thought that it would be a little bit of an anticlimactic sleeper as well, in terms of just like a snooze fest, a wrestling fest, which it kind of was, but it ended up being fire, man. Talk to me about your sleeper before we move into the prop bets, brother. What happened with Jai Herbert and Kyle Nelson, bro?
Man, that was not the way I was expecting it to go, but Jai Herbert did what he needed to do to get the dub. That's the best way I could kind of think about it. Jai Herbert didn't necessarily play the safe route, but it was not the standing and trading battle I was expecting. There was a little bit of back and forth, but not what I expected at all.
Yeah, I think Kyle Nelson proved to be a little more formidable than Jai Herbert expected, especially on the feet, which was pretty surprising. Not too surprising, but pretty surprising. But all right, with that being said, we'll move into a little bit of this prop breakdown, recap, all that good stuff. Let's go, AJ. So, listen, man, 4-2 on the day was I. My misses were Chris Curtis, the action man, and Paul Craig, the Bear Jew, right? You missed on Tom Aspinall, which is kind of a repeat of last week where I missed on Brian Ortega out of technicality. Did you really miss? No, the fight barely even happened, but you missed on Aspinall, and then, you know, so we basically both missed on Curtis and Paul Craig. But because of that technicality, you do lose the money line, what'd you say, war competition this week? 3-3, or 3-3, and I'm 4-2. Now, AJ, I need to pull this up because we vowed to do better. And here we are once again. Prop bets. It was a rough night for me. 1-5. I got saved by Curtis Blaydes with the TKO right there. 0-6 on the board for you, my man. This is the second one. 2 is bad. We can't do 3. 3, that something's got to change, right? I remember what it was, but there's this quote from it's like a movie or something like that. But it was like a football coach or a basketball coach. He was all like, "All right, man. Like, we lose 1, that's fine. We lose 2, all right, I got to trade one of you guys." You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't lose 2 in a row. Like, we can't lose 2, can't lose 3 in a row. So once it becomes a streak, yeah, someone got to get traded. Something got to happen, brother. How are we going to fix this? What are we talking about?
Oof, man, it's rough too, because there's sometimes we're on it with the prop bets, and we kind of see how things are going. And I feel like on these days where, you know, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 6 fights as an actual finish, it's hard to guess which finish it's gonna be, you know? Like, looking back on it, you pulled it up right now, Derick. Looking at it, the Aspinall submission might have been a reach for me. Might have been a reach. That's why it's that plus 550 seconds. I'm glad you hit on Blaydes TKO, but a lot of those other ones, Pimblett TKO, we could see that happen. Krylov submission, he went in with the knuckles, so it's kind of it's something that I can see happening. I look at them. Besides that Aspinall submission, but I look at all the other ones where I'm like, man, I could see why we picked that. That looks like the smart choice, and then all the other stuff happens as the fight unfolds.
Yeah.
So I think going forward, man, We just gotta look at maybe you know what it is too. What actually I was looking at, I saw in Tapology. I think it was for the one. Which fight was it? It doesn't matter, but one of the fights up there. Tapology had it right. Like whereas they said, oh, everybody's choosing this guy for decision. I was like, man, I feel it was the Diakiese, where I was like, I feel like Diakiese can get the knockout, man. I'm really looking for a knockout. I was actually talking about this on stream, but he was working the decision, man. He was working the ground game, and it seemed like the Tapology fans might have knew. So maybe take a little bit of that into consideration next time for me over here, at least on the 0-6 side. You know, maybe that's a little something I might look into in a bit. What do you think? How you gonna fix the 1-5?
Well, listen, brother, you're basically spot on. We picked Nikita Krylov to win via finish submission. He ends up knocking out Gustafsson. We pick Paddy Pimblett to win via TKO against a BJJ guy in Jordan Leavitt. He submits him. It's just, the luck of the draw sometimes. So honestly, it was more of a how would you say, a rhetorical question, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like, at the end of the day, we know what we need to do. You're on the ball. You just keep going with the strategy that we have, and the 0-6 won't pop up next time. But look at a couple of these ones that were rough. The Molly McCann, who history proves that decision is the way to go. She even had minus odds at decision, and she knocks back-to-back spinning back elbow KOs. Like, come on, man. Are we going to bank on that every time? Absolutely not. But it happened, man. It happened. And I already talked about the strength of schedule, Hannah Goldy. We'll talk about all that in a second. But to pop it back up, listen, man, prop bets 1-5 for me, 0-6 for AJ, but we both hit 4-2 on the under, so we're still doing good on the unders. But the key that we need to take away here is that we hit on these three, both of us, Paddy Pimblett, Nikita Krylov, and Molly McCann. We hit on all three of those, so those were three locks. We set them the whole time. We're like, these three are going to hit, so I hope you bet on them. If you didn't, well, I mean, maybe next time. But AJ, for the prop bets, like I said, I showed this a second ago. I hit on the Blaydes TKO. We basically missed on everything else. We came so close, 1-5, 0-6. We do have to show it, and the reason why we show it is to hold ourselves accountable. It is so easy to just skid past it and be like, oh, let's just talk about the breakdown, and then we don't need to talk about our picks last week, but instead of skidding past it, we're holding ourselves accountable and showing you folks using transparency, saying, hey man, this is the luck of the draw sometimes. We did hit. There are a couple of bets that we talk about that aren't literally written down for our, main program here for these segments, a couple over and unders that I was hitting on, a couple parlays that I threw together. So once again, if you want more of that stuff, that's where you hit us up on Twitch, right? Santa Fe Bomber for AJ over there, right? And then for me, right, we will see when I gotta hide it from Uncle Dana for a minute, but I'll figure it out for you guys here soon. All right. So listen, that is the betting recap right there, folks. We will do better next time on the prop bets, but we're even Stevens when it comes down to the money lines, brother. We are both at a percentage of 64.03%, my man. So let's get it. Who else right now over the course of the year? It is July, brother. It's almost August. We're 7 months through the year and we're over 64% accuracy rating. I think it speaks for itself, right, AJ?
Oh, 100%, Derick. Yeah, I firmly believe, especially with the track record is, and I like what you're saying about keeping it accountable. Yeah. And I think that's why we have the record for the whole year as well. It's keeping it accountable, because who else out there would actually, is going to highlight their faults and their failures? Not many people, especially on the internet world, are going to be that open about it. But now that it's an actual trusted source who's going to be there the whole time with like, yeah, this is what it is, 64% accuracy rating, pretty damn good for an entire year's worth of work. Well, 3/4 of a year, what would you count it as? But either way, 3/4 of a year's work, still a really good percentage rating.
There we go. And I'll tell you where we get this model from. I get this model from because I play legit fantasy football every single year for money every year. And the people that I go to, when they tell me, oh, this is the guy, you got to start him, or this is the ranking, this is why you should rank him over him, and then it ends up not really being it, they come back next week and say, all right, listen, guys, clearly I'm number 2 in the country right now in terms of my accuracy. It just didn't pan out. Hold yourself accountable. That's how you gain like and trust. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, AJ, we might as well just jump straight into it, my man. Let's talk about the main card. Let's get it.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown,
courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Okay, AJ, given that there were 15 combined strikes landed in this fight, actually not combined, 15 thrown strikes combined, between Curtis Blaydes and Tom Aspinall, there's not much to talk about, man. Curtis Blaydes landed 4 total strikes. Tom Aspinall landed 3. So I guess if you're just saying numbers never lie, yes, Curtis Blaydes won. But the key that we need to take away here, man, is that Tom Aspinall came out hot. He came out ready to go, and it looks like he was not intimidated from that shot of Curtis Blaydes, because if he was, he wouldn't have been going in crazy, flying a knee to open up the fight. So given that people are saying that this might not be the biggest injury for Tom Aspinall, It might be an MCL, not an ACL, given the way that he was holding his knee. We're really not sure, man. We have to wait until the MRI comes out. You would know more about the knee injury than I would. They're saying that it could be 6 weeks before he makes his return. So that's not like a year layoff, Moan. That's not a 6-month layoff. You know, it could be 6 weeks. You're training again. You're doing your thing. This isn't the end of Tom Aspinall, clearly, but he ran into a little hiccup. How is this hiccup different, AJ, than Chris Daukaus' hiccup against Derek Lewis? Or was it Derek Lewis? Who did he get knocked out by? Was it Derek Lewis?
See, I think it was.
Yeah, whoever Curtis Blaydes just lost to, how is this hiccup different? You know what I mean? Because Tom Aspinall didn't particularly get knocked out. He got stopped because his knee blew out. But talk to me, brother. Walk me through the difference between the momentum of these two fighters.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna check it just to double check which it was that Curtis Blaydes lost to. Yeah, or that he just beat Chris Daukaus. I think it has to be because it was a round 2, 70 seconds in the round 2. So I think what makes it the big difference is we actually got to see the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like with Chris Daukaus, we saw X's and O's were working very much in the favor of Curtis Blaydes. Whereas in this one, technically Curtis Blaydes threw more, landed a little bit more. We can see what it was, but you just didn't have enough data to actually make a legitimate decision or have the outcome of this fight have a legitimate impact on the Tom Aspinall's future. I mean, I credit it all to that Dr. Brian Suter on YouTube. Shout out Dr. Brian Suter because he gives you some of the best knowledge. And they're talking about PCL, so it's another one that's the ACL level, probably not as bad. But it did give everyone a little bit of pause for concern for the fact that Tom Aspinall was in pain when it happened. So that right there is a little much because as if you've ever torn a ligament in your knee, it doesn't really hurt. Doesn't really hurt at all. Kind of you hear it, you feel it. It is what it is. But when it hurts, you're like, oh shit, something else in there is a little bit more damage. And I think that's kind of the more concern. The fact that there's something else that's a nagging or a pain that's going on. So I think that's kind of where I'm a little more concerned for this. But I don't think you can really justify making a big Tom Aspinall, his career is over. He's going to be a journeyman from now on. There's no reason for that at all. That's where I feel the difference comes into play. What about you?
Yeah, no, sounds about good, man. Honestly, we didn't see anything, so that's really the whole entire takeaway from that is we didn't see enough. Tom Aspinall will be back. My question is, will these two ever see each other again in the octagon?
Oh yeah. Especially because Curtis Blaydes doesn't really want to fight him again. I think there'll be a little not bad blood, but maybe a storyline to come out of this one.
Yeah, there could be a little heat, a little, one of those, oh yeah, we fought and I won, and then, all the years down the road, it's like, all right, brother, we got to do it again. Whether it's for a belt or not, I do think they will meet again. We hit on the under, unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Speedy recovery to Tom Aspinall, but we hit on the under, both of us. I got the TKO prop on that one, and I mean, if you bet on Curtis Blaydes by TKO, that's plus 300, so you have to take it in the book. But honestly, like we said in the beginning, there's not really much to say about this main event. It was marred by injury. The fans kind of got robbed here, but it is what it is. Curtis Blaydes by default gets the win, and I do hope to see these two in the octagon again very, very soon. This is a co-main event that didn't really go. It's kind of like an oxymoron in a way, where it's like, all right, you got a grappler versus a world-class striker. And who's going to be the dude who just picks apart the dude for the whole entire 15 minutes, unmitigated? I mean, get in his mind, play the mind games, do the whole thing. You would think 9 out of 10 times, oh, it's Chris Curtis. Like, if I just explained that to you, you'd be like, oh, yeah, Chris Curtis did that to Hermansson all day long. And then you watch the fight, and then I was waiting, man. So when I was streaming this one, and I was kind of just talking with the people in the chat, we were all saying, we're like, okay, I know Chris Curtis is a little bit of a slow starter. He's gathering his reads, okay. And then round 2 comes, and we're like, how come he's not doing anything? And then round 3, it's like, what? He's not doing anything. He's not throwing. There's no volume. He's following him. He's not cutting off the ring. And Hermansson is dancing around the cage, skirting around the outside, just throwing kicks, just being long, using his range. AJ, we talk about it the same way that a grappler, right? Like Paul Craig was trying to fight Volkan Oezdemir earlier, and we'll talk about that in depth, right? He couldn't get the takedown, so what does he do? He just lays down and says, come and fight me. Did he cry and be like, oh, you know what I mean? You got to come down and come into my guard right now. No. But Curtis Blaydes was kind of feeling away, saying, you're dancing, you're running, why don't you come and fight me? We know in the tacticians and the X's and O's of the fight game, that's just not how it works, brother. So was this just a Chris Curtis meltdown, or was Jack Hermansson really just doing that amazing of a job skirting across the cage?
I think it was a little more of not a meltdown, I guess is the way you could call it for Chris Curtis. I think it was a little more of he really genuinely did not expect Jack Hermansson to stand on the outside at all. He also thought what Chris Curtis thought what we all thought. If there's going to be a striking battle, he's going to be the one that shows up, puts his toe in the line, beats up the dude on the feet, goes home with the win. That's how it goes. But when Jack was staying long, Chris wasn't able to get in on the inside. Even when he was, Jack shook him off, stayed up on the inside or stayed up on the outside, kept skirting around the ring. I think it was more of a what? I didn't expect this to go down this way. All right, what do I do? And it really more of a paralysis by analysis, because you could even hear his coaches the entire time. You got to go, Chris. You got to go. And he's just standing there doing a weird elbow, trying to walk in, trying to get funky with it, while Jack's just skirting around the outside with those low leg kicks. I feel like he was more flustered than anything, and that's really what caused the issues of the fight.
And that's what I mean by meltdown. It's not that, there was some emotional breakdown or anything. It's just that, tactically your strategy isn't working. And instead of adjusting your strategy, you then try to force your opponent to fight your fight. And maybe he tried to do it with mental warfare and try to say, all right, I'm going to taunt this dude. I'm going to talk mess to him so he engages in this battle with me. But it didn't work. So he just kept skirting around. You just kind of look a little foolish at that point. You look like a dude who doesn't have how many fights, bro? Who doesn't have 37 fights in total? You look like a dude who is less experienced when you perform that way. However, he did mention after the fight, he was like, listen, man, this is not how I envisioned the fight to go. This is not what I trained for. I didn't train for a track meet. I trained for a fight. And listen, there was no excuse really at the end of the day. He owned up to it. And that's why you have to respect Chris Curtis, because he said, he was like, it wasn't my night. It was the Joker's night. I have a temper. Most of y'all think I'm a nice guy. I am a nice guy. But now I have a little bit of a temper, and sometimes it gets to me. And because he walked out of the cage fucking flipping off Hermansson, and Hermansson's so nice. So it's whoever wants to do that to the Joker, right? So you feel bad even being mean to him. But I just thought that this was a very, very this was a much needed win by Jack Hermansson. This was a skillful win by Jack Hermansson, because he went to show that when it comes down to playing the game, I'm not talking about being a gladiator, winning a war. I'm talking about playing the game. He knows how to get the win, and he needed that after Sean Strickland. This was a big adjustment after the Sean Strickland win. So, or Sean Strickland loss. So, what did we say here, AJ? We said this is almost a cheat code for Chris Curtis. He was in the corner when Sean Strickland beat up Jack Hermansson. He steps in for Darren Till on 4 weeks' notice. He's still kind of fresh, still not like he's not in shape to fight Jack Hermansson, and he gets schooled, man. So in London, which is terrible. But Jack Hermansson hits on the plus 250. What does it mean to you that there were 6 takedown attempts by Jack Hermansson, none landed, and he was just content with sticking with striking? I mean, it was smart in hindsight now, because I feel like if he would have forced the takedowns, we would have had a much different fight.
Yeah, no, I think it was a smart attack. And there's a lot of times where those attempted takedowns were kind of just I'm gonna bump your hips, I'm gonna kind of dip out. Like Jack Hermansson, there was a couple where you see he did the second shot, where he fully committed on the shot, wasn't able to get it. But at the same point, once he did that, he bounced out right away and maintained the length. It was actually I would say an impressive performance from Jack Hermansson. Obviously, again, not exactly what we thought was going to happen, and not exactly the war that you if you think of Jack Hermansson, Chris Curtis, you're like, oh, this is going to go to war. That Chris Curtis going to bring it. So I think it was an impressive tactician fight for Jack Hermansson, man. He really saw what happened in the Sean Strickland fight when Sean was just jabbing his face off, and he's like, all right, I'm not going to let that happen again. This dude's going to probably come in, see that. I'm going to maintain the distance with my legs longer than the lead hand, so I can keep things going. And I think Jack really looked at the fight, the post-fight, the Strickland fight, and grew from it, which I'm always impressive to see. Yeah,
that's a fair take. I mean, the biggest real negative that I have from Chris Curtis's performance is that Jack Hermansson literally doubled his output. He doubled Chris Curtis's output. 251 total strikes for Hermansson, 125 for Curtis. So you're just not going to win a fight that way, especially if you're not grappling. You know what I mean? So that was really the concern. It was you just got to throw more, but it's hard to throw when you have a constantly moving target. My last theory, and this was my theory during the fight, I was like, maybe Chris Curtis didn't have that success because he's so accustomed to, at least recently, fighting in that Apex that Apex cage, because it's a little smaller. Now I don't have it in front of me. Maybe he has fought in a couple other places, as in the UFC at least. But that bigger cage is different, man, in terms of tactics, in terms of being able to cut off the cage. It's a lot harder when you have that big cage. So it's favorable to the shakers and the movers and the people who utilize that mobility. So I think that this was just good momentum for Jack Hermansson. He's going to get an interesting test next. The question is he going to be able to capitalize on it? Because this is good momentum to capitalize on. Do you think he'll be able to capitalize on his next test?
Ooh, and I hope so for Jack, but I kind of feel like he has been the up and down fighter as of late. So, and I think this is one of those ones where he doesn't really have much to grow and learn from, Yeah. You just keep it going, keep it steady. So hopefully, but Jack, man, Joker, sometimes up and down.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. And listen, man, Chris Curtis is now 3-1 in the UFC, something like that. I mean, come on, this is not a bad start whatsoever to your UFC tenure, but that was a big win by the Joker. I think it's fair to say that the UFC London card, kind of ended after this fight, after Paddy Pimblett versus Jordan Leavitt, because obviously you have the marathon, that was the co-main event, and then you have a 15-second main event marred in injury. So it's like this was the main event. This was truly the people's main event. This was the main event. Paddy the Baddy Pimblett versus Jordan the Monkey King Leavitt. And I mean, listen, man, I told everybody this is going to be a much more difficult fight than you think. You think Paddy Pimblett's going to come in here and just starch this dude in a round? You're crazy. It's not going to happen. But he did eventually take over the fight, man. And he did it in a way that Jordan Leavitt and everybody else probably thought would never happen, which is submission, right? Because what is Jordan Leavitt saying the whole time? He's saying, oh, Paddy Pimblett, if you tear away all the flash and all the hype, this is not an intriguing matchup for me. I fought better dudes, better strikers, better jiu-jitsu guys. My wrestling is better. My jiu-jitsu is better. He said basically everything was better. And I do think that he showed that his wrestling was better to a degree than Paddy Pimblett's, but Paddy Pimblett's defensive grappling was on point, and he put himself in a position to where he was able to take the back of Jordan Leavitt and eventually choke him out after throwing big bombs, you know what I mean? And Jordan Leavitt was kind of piecing him up with that front kick that he threw like 5 times in a row on him. So what was your biggest takeaway on both sides from this matchup? Paddy Pimblett clearly delivers the goods. Clearly. I mean, at this point, can we call it hype when it's like 3 finishes in a row? You know what I mean?
Oh, well, 3 finishes in a row, and on this time, his chin didn't get tested. It got tested, but he didn't falter. Where in the other fights, he faltered a little bit. Man, what I really liked from Paddy Pimblett was that short inside knee when he had Jordan Leavitt all tangled up. That thing was beautiful, man. You could tell it hit hard. Yeah. Leavitt fell to the ground right away. That was my favorite strike of the entire event, or the entire fight of this one. But what I took away from Paddy Pimblett, man, he knows how to get down in the scrap. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's been multi-versed. There's things going on. Paddy's going to stay aware. He's going to stay focused. He's going to look good, man. A lot of people, they were doubting whether, like you said, is the hype train real? Yeah, I mean, I think so, man. 3 finishes in the UFC. This dude's a real deal and a really good fighter. And now, as far as Jordan Leavitt, man, can't take anything away from the kid. This dude, he's strong, and I think that's what surprised everybody. Jordan Leavitt has some actual strength, especially in the 155, picking Paddy up like that a couple times, dumping him over the shoulder. That's what I was impressed with Jordan Leavitt. Sure, the grappling was good. He seemed like he was a little bit more control. Well, Paddy, like you said, the defensive wrestling was very impressive. But I liked how strong Jordan Leavitt looked in the exchanges. Paddy was the bigger man, but Jordan had the strength advantage. That's what I liked about it, man. Very impressive fight for the time it took until you get kneed in the head and choked out. But still, good fight.
So do you think that the level of competition for Paddy Pimblett has to go higher at this point now, right? He says he's going to be fighting on pay-per-views. He wants to fight. That was kind of going to be his last fight in the UK. He wants to fight in Vegas from now on. It only makes sense because he's getting paid so much. He got a new contract from the UFC, all that. He's not fighting on a 10-10 anymore, right? So I guess that's the question. Jordan Leavitt was by no means a slouch, but for the name value that Paddy brings, you're going to have to start fighting these top 15 to 20 type dudes, 15 to 25. Jordan Leavitt, ranked on Tapology 51. Clearly, I think he's better than that. You give his only 2 losses have both been in the UFC. But I thought this was a competitive back and forth matchup, man. I thought that Paddy really, really showed off some good grappling chops, because that's the one knock. People think that he's this striker for whatever reason. I've been saying it the whole time. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. He's always been a jiu-jitsu guy. He threw up 4 submission attempts in the fight, man. So it was touch and go for a little bit, man. It was definitely touch and go. And there were some moments where I was like, if Jordan Leavitt does this the next 2 rounds, like, he's going to win this by a landslide. But, he got saved with the finish. We need to start seeing, though, in the big show, can Paddy finish off decisions? Finishes are great. but we have to know you were able to take it the 15 minutes if need be, right? So we'll see what happens. I think Jordan Leavitt, man, proved himself in this fight, and I think that he will. I think he earned a little bit of stock, man, even though the fight ended in a loss. Do you agree with me there?
Oh, yeah, 100%, man. It was, like you said, back and forth and more back and forth than a lot of people thought.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Leavitt also earned some fans too, man.
Yeah, and he completed 3 takedowns on 9 attempts. And one interesting stat about UFC London, and I wanted to bring this up more for the Paul Craig fight, but there were a total of 128 takedown attempts, which is the single event record in UFC history. That was this card, which is why there was so little finishes, 5 finishes in like 14 bouts, right? So this was a huge win by Paddy Pimblett, and this is one half of the duo of him and Molly McCann, who 3 cards together, 3 finishes, right? Or Molly McCann, 2 finishes for Molly McCann. 1 decision and 2 finishes. I mean, listen, star-studded. They said it. They're a package deal, brother. So when they fight again, they're probably going to be on the same card. If we're talking about an upset, we're talking about something that was like all to see, something that I felt like was almost too good to be true, common sense to a degree. It's Nikita Krylov getting a finish over Alexander Gustafsson. Now, did I think it would come in the form of a TKO? No. I did think that his best path, get him to the ground, and then take his back and submit him. But Krylov, man, when he started throwing hands, it was a little troubling because Gustafsson, I mean, though there was 26 total strikes for Krylov, only 5 total for Gustafsson. And as soon as Gustafsson was getting touched, man, it was like that indomitable chin, that iron chin he had just was nowhere to be found. And that's when Daniel Cormier hops on Twitter and says, hey, Gustafsson, man, it's time to hang it up, bro. You just don't got that chin anymore. You know, your heyday was when, you know, I was the champ, when Jones was the champ. Maybe you should just, like, give it a rest, you know, and develop the newer fighters. You know what I mean? I know you're fighting out at the All-Star Training Center with Khamzat Chimaev. I know that, right? But that doesn't make up for the fact that Alexander Gustafsson is how old, right? You know, if I pull it up right now, it actually shows that he is, what do we got? 35 years old. Damn, not super old in the grand scheme of things, but there's a lot of wear and tear on those tires. Not in the number of fights, but in the damage accumulated during the fight. Were you surprised to see Krylov literally just kind of stiff Gustafsson the way that he did?
Absolutely shocked. Especially for the fact that Krylov came out like a dervish, man. He was literally just going, and when they get a little bit of space, he closed that space instantly. I was very shocked at the style of striking that Nikita Krylov was presenting, with how much pressure he had, not letting Gustafsson breathe, and with how short that little uppercut was up in the middle that actually slumped Gustafsson. I kind of feeling away, because you're right, man. When the chin goes, it's really hard to watch a lot of these fighters that you've watched a million times take whoopings. You know, somebody that is heralded as beating John Jones but not actually getting the dub. Seeing him go out like this, man, it's a rough one. It's a rough one to actually watch. And I also think training out of such a place. I forget you said the name of it, but training with Khamzat, training with all those killers over there. Maybe the chin's getting touched up a little too much. You know, maybe you might need to go the Max Holloway route, not really have too many sparring sessions. But I feel like if you're in there with the dogs and you're in there with Khamzat, you're sparring, you're getting it. You know, there's a lot of things going on. Maybe not. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, who knows, man? It's All Stars Training Center is where he trains out of. But who knows? I don't know, because he did get rocked early on in the fight. He got dropped. He got back up. But in that little clinch scenario, I felt like it's just, they say the ones that hurt you are the ones that you don't see coming. So I think that's where it comes from. The dirty boxing, man. You just got him in the clinch and you bring up, boop, and drops him. And that was it. And then it was kind of mercy by the referee of the fight, man. But yeah, man, Nikita Krylov, though, this is what I was saying the whole time. I was like, this is the dude you don't want to fight, because he doesn't, I mean, he has a number next to his name. He's been ranked forever, but he has no name value, but he's one of the most dangerous fighters in the top 15. So it's just like, it's a bad combination, especially for Gustafsson, who hadn't fought in, 2 years? You know what I mean? Like, that's just not, you go from wanting to fight, or you go from fighting Ben Rothwell to Nikita Krylov. That's just 2 completely different, universes right there. So, this is another one where it was 1 minute and 7 seconds, right? So it's just like, there's not much to say on the fight other than Nikita Krylov is that unheralded dude that I've been saying for a long time. You got to watch out for the dude. I picked him to beat Magomed Ankalaev when they fight, man. And you know how big of an Ankalaev fan I am. So you can see, man, when they got the goods, man, you got to back them. But Alexander Gustafsson, I think that it's safe to say we'd all be happier if maybe he hung it up, you know what I mean? So we didn't see him go the Chuck Liddell route, where Chuck Liddell, he had said it. He was all like, man, you reach a certain point in your career where you've taken so much damage over the years. your brain has like an auto shut off to save yourself, right? He says you're too tough for your own good. So when I start getting hit, I have to shut it off because you're going to endure too much damage. Do you think that's fair when you have a mauler, the mauler, Alexander Gustafsson, a dude who's known for his boxing? After so many years, man, it just, the brain has to save itself, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I think that's 100% fair. And actually, we saw it in last week's fight card. I forget who it was that was eating the elbows. And then he even said, he was like, oh, well, they must have hurt because I don't remember them.
Oh, yeah.
Your body saves yourself. Your body shuts it off. And then, you wake up a little bit later. And I guarantee Gustafsson woke up in the back and asked, oh, what happened? Like, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if I'm not mistaken, it was it Matt Schnell? Was it Li Jingliang?
It was Matt Schnell.
Matt Schnell, that's right.
Because it was Sumaderji hitting him.
That's right. Yeah, with those big elbows. I mean, how can we forget? So it was just last week. Come back in the century, and we already forgot it, man. Crazy how our fight memories. I mean, we watched so many fights. It's just it's hard. And I was watching not just fights. I was watching Bellator this week, man. They had a bunch of different promotions all over XMMA, all these promotions. Man. Meatball Molly McCann, she fights Hannah Goldy. And my first argument when we talked about this on the pre-show was that why is Molly McCann not getting steps up in competition? Now, the person she just called out in her post-fight presser, that's going to be a step up in competition, Antonina Shevchenko. But when you're fighting a Hannah Goldy, if there's anybody who legit, look at these prop odds, man. Plus 1,600 TKO, plus 1,000 submission, plus 425 decision. Nobody really thought she was going to win. So when Molly McCann gets this matchup and Hannah Goldy says, I want to grapple you, well, that was your only shot, man. Hold her up against the cage and try to sneak in some heel hooks or something. Molly McCann, when she starts letting the hands go, though, it's a dangerous predicament to be in. Now, this is one thing that I can't prove, and this is just anecdotal evidence here, AJ, but I do feel that when I was watching Hannah Goldy, in the pre-fight stuff, right, in the ceremonial weigh-in, when she walks to the cage, when she's walking, like literally into the cage and in the cage, when she's looking around and everything's starting to happen, it just felt like the moment might have been a little bit too bright. And I don't want to be disrespectful by any stretch of the imagination. It just felt like she was just kind of looking around, just being like, okay, I'm here. And on the other hand, you had Molly McCann, who came in, locked in, ready to go. She's like, I'm coming for violence. Like, I'm coming gladiator style. And that's the difference, man. Who knows? We don't know, but this is just from what the eye test, what I saw on the screen. And I was just like, ooh, even like when I saw that, I was like, all right, it's going to be bad for Hannah Goldy. Like Molly McCann's really going to put it on. Now, I expected just a tactical back and forth. We're just going to punch each other up. It's going to go to a decision. This is a Molly McCann fight. Come on, minus 135 for the decision, the flyweight. But when it's first round and she's putting it on her and they get separated, she walks up, she throws a big right hand and follows it up with a spinning back elbow, cracks her. That was the beginning of the end. Once again, same thing with Nikita Krylov. It's the shots that you don't see coming that hurt you the most. And I can guarantee you she did not see that coming because when she got hit with it, it was, you just have that pause, that moment of just like you look around like what just happened. Next thing you know, you got 5 shots you're eating, fight's over. So this was super impressive by Molly McCann. How impressive in terms of knockouts for flyweights was this truly? You got Valentina who's head kicking Jessica Ai, knocking her head unconscious and all that, but like this is pretty damn impressive, right?
Very impressive, especially because we don't really see too many knockouts in the women's division. Nonetheless, the flyweight division, man, there's it's usually what we're expecting, the back and forth battle, the point battle that that's what we thought was going to happen. And to see Molly McCann, I believe on the pre-show, we said, we were like, there's no way she gets another spinning back elbow knockout. Like, the decision's all locked. Not a chance it's going to happen. Sure enough, she comes back and Hannah Goldy had to eat an elbow for our mistake, because Molly McCann, she sets that up, man. She really turns those hips and looks for it. Like, she's a very talented striker, and it's impressive to see more and more knockouts coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's good because I feel like it adds a little bit more hype to the females and a little bit more it solidifies them as like, oh shit, these girls can scrap, and the casuals see that now too. Very impressive over here.
Well, I'll tell you that I don't want to get too locked up into recency bias, because it wasn't that long ago, man, where Molly McCann was a journeyman, a journeywoman. Now she's a superstar. But like literally a couple fights ago, it was just like literally 3-4 fights ago, you're like, oh yeah, Molly McCann, yeah, she's cool, you know what I mean? Then Paddy Pimblett comes on the scene, and then they join forces, and then she starts knocking people out, and you're like, oh, she's the real deal. Like, oh. So that's really the question. Is Molly McCann the real deal? Or once we get a step up in competition, are we going to go back to the original Meatball Molly decision fest that we're accustomed to seeing?
Well, that's why I think she's not getting the stiffest jump up in competition, because she's already gone through so many of the other fighters. She, like you said, she was kind of in that middle ground. That's not necessarily skyrocket growth, but just growing, falling, losing a couple, gaining a couple, in that weird limbo range. And I think that's why they're kind of giving her the slow route, because they see some value there. Everybody's especially on the other side of the pond, man. They see a lot of value in the meatball, so they don't want to just throw her to the wolves right away and then lose all that potential money they can get. I think that's why. But I think she's the real deal. I mean, especially to having you're showing the record right now, to have those losses and wins and come back and forth and fight really talented females out there. I think Molly McCann's the real deal. What about you?
I think Molly McCann is a legit contender, and she's a good fighter, right? I think that she can definitely hang out in that top 15 to 10 to 8 range currently right now. But I'm just saying, like, if you look at the losses right now, you can't really count this. This is back in 2015. Vanessa Mello. I'll tell you, Vanessa Mello has gone on to not have the brightest of careers. She's over there. I think she's in the PFL right now, to be honest with you. You lose to Jillian Robertson. Jillian Robertson has been in and out the rankings back and forth. Great, grappler, right? And look, she loses by rear naked choke. I mean, who would have thought? You lose to Tyler Santos, who just fought for a title against Valentina Shevchenko, and you lose to Laura Procopio, who's not a bad fighter whatsoever. Wins against Luana Carolina, Ji Young Kim, Diana Belbitsa, Ariane Lipsky, Priscilla Cachueta. Those are some good wins, right? But what is the common denominator that we're seeing here? And I'm not even trying to disparage anybody. I'm a fan of meatball, but this is the common denominator here, AJ. How many of these fighters are legitimately like, oh, these are like ranked legit fighters? Tyler Santos is the only one. It's the only one that you have on this entire list of people. Jillian Robertson is in and out the rankings, very, very back and forth herself. Because if you look at Jillian Robertson's record, 10-7, right? You losses to JJ Aldridge, Miranda Maverick, Macy Barber. I mean, Buena Silva, Calvillo. That's a good fighter to lose to, right? That's kind of the point that I'm making. When we get this step up in competition, when we get to the top 15, and I will actually pull up the top 15 right now of the women's flyweights. When we start talking about the Marina Moroz, Tracy Cortez, Andrea Lee, Erin Blanchfield, Casey O'Neill, Jennifer Myers. When we start talking about those fighters, I just think it's going to be a little bit of a different story. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to be disparaging whatsoever. But I do think that we should enjoy the meatball show while it lasts right now. You know what I mean? Give her these opponents, make it entertaining, build up your fighter. I just thought that the UFC wasn't in the business of building up fighters. I thought the UFC was in the business of you build yourself up on the regional scene, and then we push you onto the UFC, give you tough tests to prove yourself. Now, am I wrong in that thinking, or do you think that this is just a special scenario with her and Paddy Pimblett?
No. I think you're right in that thinking. I feel like that's the normal situation in which these fighters are presented. I just think it's a little different now for Molly McCann, because they're so short in the star power in the flyweight division that they'll take any. They're just like, bro, just give us something. If we need to build you up for these certain situations or these certain cases, they'll do it. I think this is one of those ones where they see some star power. They're not lacking in talent in this division, but they are, it's thin pickings, if you will, slim pickings, however the saying goes. And I just think they see value in meatball, so that they're one of the few where she built it up, or they're building it up for her.
Well, listen, man, that's what we need right now. We need more name value here so that we can have more of these women flyweight contests put on where people are like, who is this? If it's not Valentina, who, huh? So I definitely, like I said, I want to see her now fight top 10, top 15. You got your spinning back elbow KOs. Let's not keep you in this journey woman stage, because, I mean, the clock is ticking, bro. She is all of 32 years old. So it's not like she even said it herself. She's like, I'm not ready for Valentina right now, but give me Antonina, who is out of the rankings now, but she's been back and forth in the rankings too. So I think that's a fair matchup to have. So big win by the meatball. But like I said, let's get a step up in competition. We said it. This is an underdog pick, and it's because Paul Craig is always dangerous when he gets you in his guard. The problem is Volkan Oezdemir he's so impressive, man. And the reason why is because you could tell that he's a veteran. And the reason you could tell he's a veteran is because he did the one thing that he didn't do the one thing that everybody does to fall into the trap of Paul Craig. And that is, I'm going to beat you up, and then when I'm beating you up, you're going to drop into your guard, and I'm going to follow you into your guard to try to beat you up some more. Every time Paul Craig got back to the guard, what did Volkan Oezdemir do? Just backed away.
Out.
He just backed away and just said, hey, stand up. And Paul Craig, after 15 unsuccessful takedown attempts of halfway trying to do a takedown, then pulling guard, which I understand why. Now, the commentary team was like, bro, if you're Paul Craig, you need to be actually driving through your takedown. Why don't you get on top and then try to work your game? But instead, he would try to grab him, pull him into his guard, pull up a triangle, armbar, whatever, heel hook, which kind of came close to against Oezdemir in like that first or second round. But yeah, Oezdemir was smart, man. He just disengaged, told him to stand up, and just kind of beat him on a points battle, man. 108 total strikes to 41, stuffed all 15 takedown attempts, if you want to consider that. But why are we not seeing this from more fighters now? Because it seems like this is a very clear game plan. Just like disengage, just don't engage in the grappling.
What I was thinking is Oezdemir, why he won this fight is because he actually used his mind. He fought with his mind. He was like, oh, yeah. You're saying the dude who goes in there and dislocates people's elbows, doesn't actually shoot a takedown, jumps into guard, and then people follow him in there because it looks appealing to just drop bombs on people. Oh, no, I'm going to make this dude stand up? Yeah, okay. It's so on the nose that almost nobody thinks about it. And I think that's why Volkan Oezdemir shined on this one, man. He was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to learn from everyone else's mistakes. Word. Yeah, it's I don't know why most people don't do that. It's kind of the adrenaline thing, when you're pumping, things are going, you see red, all you want to do is just smash elbows on somebody. Well, you get your arm snapped off with Paul Craig, and Volkan Oezdemir used his brain. It was like, oh, yeah, no. Come on, bro. Let's stand up.
And don't get me wrong, it's not as simple as just stand up and walk away. It's not that simple, right? You have to be able to correctly move your knees and your legs and get off the knee line and, not put yourself in a position where Paul Craig can just dismember one of your joints, Like you gotta put yourself in a smart position. But Oezdemir veered decision, man. I don't think anybody on the planet thought that this was even in the realm of possibility. It was either Oezdemir knocks him out or Craig submits him. And we get a decision. So I know nobody's really happy with that at the end of the day. But plus 315, decision prop for Oezdemir. If you bet on that, you are a smart man, smarter than me. But I think the reason why, AJ, we picked Paul Craig to win is because Anthony Smith and let me see who else, Kelly Amundsen. He had lost a couple submission losses. You know what I mean? More or less near. I don't know. I don't even know what to say, man. Recently, I guess, right? I think that's why. Yeah, you get knocked out by Yuri. You lose a decision to Ankalaev. You split decision to Reyes. You get submitted by Anthony Smith. TKO'd by Daniel Cormier. I don't know, man. No Time has been a title contender and a just legitimate top 15 contender for, quite a long time, man. So it's not like Paul Craig was expected to come here and just destroy this man. He was the betting underdog after all. I just thought that there was a shot in there for Paul Craig, but it didn't end up working out. Still very high on Paul Craig. I still think that you do need to be careful, but I do think that we see what happens when the grappling doesn't work. And it's not pretty. It's not pretty at all because you could tell he got tired after a while, man. So what do you make of this? This is my question because this is kind of the Jan Cutelaba thing. That it's all cool when you're the Hulk and when you're, bossing up on your people and you're screaming in their face and you got the Scottish war paint on and that's all cool. But when you lose after, what do you make of it?
Yeah, that's the one, man. That has to be a big ego hit because you're right. You go in, you're screaming, you're doing all the stuff that, you have to either hype yourself up or you think looks good to the camera. And then, you go and have a boring and a snoozer fight and people are judging you harshly the entire time of the way that you think you're going to fight the best. It's, I'd imagine it's a big hit to the ego. But I think with Paul Craig, he's still so dangerous at what he does. I think the ego is still going to be there. He I don't even really know, obviously get a little better at the hands, do the stuff, but that's not really the problem, I don't think necessarily, is the X's and O's. It was just for this time, Oezdemir used his brain and said, I'm not jumping down into your guard, homie. Sorry. Not everyone's going to do that. And not everyone, like you said, not everyone's going to put themselves in a place where they can do that against a guy like Paul Craig because he snatches one of those limbs. It's basically his.
And it's tough, man, because it's like this, when it works, nobody complains, but when it doesn't work, everyone's like, why is Paul Craig taking this Hail Mary submission approach? And it's like, but when it works, you don't say anything. So it's like, it's just it just didn't work out this time. You know what I mean? But big win by Volkan Oezdemir, smart win by Volkan Oezdemir. And I'm just very impressed, man, with the tactician mindset of an Oezdemir right there. So that's your main card right there, folks. It did pick up on the main card a little bit. Prelims were a little rough, but let's talk about a few of these prelim bouts, AJ. Most notably, I want to talk about Ludovit Klein, his win over Mason Jones, which I didn't think was a 30-27. I thought it should have been like a 29-28. But Mason Jones with one of the most low IQ moves I've seen in quite some time, and no disrespect to the two-time Cage Warriors champion, but to try to jump flying armbar in round 3 of a fight that you're losing and then get dominated on the ground for the rest of the round, I was just like, that was an attempt. That was something. That was an attempt. But did it work out? No. Are you going to look back and be mad that you didn't even give yourself really a shot to win that round by keeping it on the feet? Yeah, probably. But Ludovit Klein got the much-needed win. He just came off a split decision win against Devontae Smith, and then you get a win against Mason Jones. Things are back in the upward trajectory for my man Ludovit Klein, Mr. Highlight, who did pull off a highlight reel, jumping karate kick, whatever that was, man. AJ, I know you liked that. I know you were a fan of that one. What do you take away from my man Ludovit Klein's performance?
Man, very impressive. You're right, Derick. I saw the jump in kick coming. I was like, yeah, the fucking, he's feeling himself, you know. Mr. Perfect is feeling himself. He's feeling good. Great. I mean, not the star-studded performance that like kind of sets you up, you know, to really skyrocket you, but a performance that made the fans realize that Ludovit Klein is back and still in the tactician mode, still, you know, doing the stuff that you need to do to win these fights. Yeah, I was more blown away, like you said, by the Mason Jones attempt because it was such a high risk, not really that high reward. You know, it's third round. People are sweaty. You're probably going to slip out of that one. Maybe, unless I don't know, but yeah, I was more impressed by Ludovit Klein. He was back, man. He's back in it and looking good.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Marc Diakiese, man. Some would say that he has earned the title of an honorary Nurmagomedov after his last 2 performances, man, where he has turned into a D1 wrestler. So it's like, who is this D1 wrestler impersonating Marc the Bone Crusher Diakiese? It's supposed to be this masterful kickboxer that just takes people's heads off. And now he aims for those legs, he blast doubles you, and he holds you down, and there's nothing you can do about it. And he did that to Damir Hadzovic, the Bosnian bomber. He took away all the bombs that the Bosnian bomber had, and he just, 8 of 11 takedowns, brother. 78 total strikes. It looked like Hadzovic just was having a very not fun time in there. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when you're just like, when you don't want to be there. You're like, man, this is not the fight that I wanted. You're just holding me up against the cage. There's nothing I can do about it, so I'm just going to have to endure this for 15 minutes. Big win by Marc Diakiese, and that's what he's focused on right now. I could tell. It's not about showcasing. It's not about entertainment. It's about, I need wins on the board. I need to stay on this UFC roster. Do you agree with the approach? And what do you think about the new form of a Marc Diakiese?
I was mind blown, Derick. I was watching this one on stream. I was streaming this one. I streamed all the prelims on Twitch. Like Derick said, twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber. Check this out. But I was literally sitting there watching Diakiese just wrestle. Like you said, he even hit the not the Dagestani handcuff where he grips around, but basically the leg. I don't know. You'll know the exact
leg lace, brother.
Leg lace, brother. Thank you. He was hitting that, and I was like, oh shit! Like Diakiese's here to wrestle. Diakiese's here to do it. And you're right. Damir Hadzovic had the 1,000-mile stare of like, oh shit! I got 3 minutes of this dude just on top of me, wrestling me the whole time. Nothing I can do. Fuck, man. It was hard to watch for Damir Hadzovic, but if you're Marc Diakiese or a Diakiese fan, I think it's a good sign that he's showing another. We were talking about it before with Oezdemir, like a mental prowess of, oh, I need wins. People are getting cut left and right. Sure, I'm known for these hands. I'll always have these hands, but I'm here to wrestle. I'm here to get paid. I'm here to, solidify for mine and, for me and myself and my family. Big win for Diakiese, even though it was a wrestling, even though it was, some would say, a boring fight. But you 30-26 somebody, you 10-8 a couple, or at least a round on 2 judges' scorecard. Big win. Big win right there.
And then you showcase an actual bout right here, the Nathaniel Wood bout versus Charles Rosa, a bout where Nathaniel Wood had literally said, he was like, I'm going to make you pay, bro. You were supposed to fight me at UFC London back in March, and you pulled out, and I had already cut weight. Someone has to pay for this. And I think that he proved that last night, man, because listen, man, 31 of 35 leg kicks for Nathaniel Wood. Charles Rosa's left leg, I can guarantee he's not walking good on it right now. He's probably barely walking at all. But Charles Rosa, definition of grit, definition of toughness, definition of not wanting to quit, definition of if you bet on a Nathaniel Wood TKO, you're probably mad as hell because you're like, why wouldn't Rosa just go down? Why wouldn't he just stay down? Technically, and this is what I was wondering when I was watching it real time. I was like, okay, Nathaniel Wood chopped Charles Rosa's leg so many times, and he dropped him so many times. I was like, are we going to count these 10-8 rounds all day long because of the amount of knockdowns? But when you look at the numbers, there are officially 0 knockdowns for Nathaniel Wood. So how does that work? How is it not a knockdown if you literally knocked your opponent down because they cannot stand on their leg?
That's a very interesting question. I'm looking at the stats right now. 0 knockdowns for both. I vividly remember Charles Rosa, I would say, getting knocked down, would you count a foot sweep as a knockdown?
That's a trip. That's a trip.
It's a
That could be
trip.
more of a takedown, right? And Nathaniel Wood has 1 takedown, but I think for those leg kick knockdowns, there was at least like 5 of them.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, sure, you count a leg sweep as a trip, but you count a strike that somebody falls from as a knockdown. I saw it like 5-6 times. Charles Rosa be on his back after one of those. And also, go check us out on Twitter if you haven't, folks. Yeah. We're usually live tweeting the events too. And that's what I was saying, man. Charles Rosa, I kept saying Rosa, but Charles Rosa, his left leg was compromised, man. Oh, yeah. Very compromised. Crazy that he made it that far in that fight. Also crazy they don't give him any knockdowns. I feel like that's
Yeah, no, I'm with you. But Nathaniel Wood looks sharp, man. It's been, I think, a year since he's performed last, man. His last win, believe it or not, his last fight was against Casey Kenny. Actually, 2 years ago. It's been 2 years since Nathaniel Wood fought. His last fight was Casey Kenny back in October of 2020. He gets back on the board and looks in great form, my man. He said he was going to make somebody pay, and he made them pay. So shout out to Nathaniel Wood. That was a great win. Charles Rosa, always a strong outing. Real quick, JSP, we talked about it earlier. He put it on Makwan Amirkhani. And it's funny because it's a running joke at this point, but people are saying, they're like, oh, so you mean Makwan Amirkhani came out for 3 hard minutes and then gassed out? Oh, big shock, right? And you don't want to hate on Mr. Finland, but this is the story, man. Time and time again. He'll give it to you in that first round. Be careful. Don't get anaconda. Don't get darced. Don't get guillotined in that first round. But all that grappling, and next thing you know, there's no gas. Now you're shaking out the arms, and there's still 2 minutes left in round 1, and you're just like, oh, no, man, this is going bad. Because for a second, I was like, he's really about to anaconda JSP. Like, this is really about to happen right now. JSP gets his head out, and then he just beats on him, man. And if you look at the total strike numbers, 12 total strikes landed. This is probably one of the largest differences in strike totals. 12 total strikes landed for Makwan Amirkhani, 144 for JSP. Now, I told you guys this was going to be a sleeper because you need to watch out for JSP. Maybe one day you'll listen to me. You know what I'm saying? But this is a dude I've had my eye on for quite some time. 90 significant strikes to 11, man. I mean, JSP is the real deal. Finished him second round punches. It's kind of like a mercy, you know what I mean, type thing for the referee stepping in. But, I mean, listen, man, that dude is the real deal. Am I right?
Absolutely correct, Derick. JSP, one of the future fighters that we're going to be talking about a lot, folks. And you better watch now, man, because JSP, we've been saying for quite a while now, this dude's going to be on the scene and going to be here for a while.
It's legit featherweight right there. And kind of the same mold of that Amirkhani gas out was Claudio Silva, who, once again, has always the strongest first rounds where he looks like a world beater. He looks like a champion in round 1. And then rounds 2 and 3 happen, and then you're like, beginning of the end, gas tank's running out. Nicholas Dalby, man, I was in real worry, man, because I had a parlay running. And you know who ended up ruining my parlay? It was a 6-leg parlay. I hit on all 5 legs. 6th leg comes in, Mason Jones losing to Ludovit Klein. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. But either way, Nicholas Dalby, man, I was like, oh, he's really about to lose. My parlay is going to be blown in the first fight because of that first round. But what does he do, man? He ends up coming back. In terms of takedowns, man, he did get taken down 4 times on 12 attempts. He outstruck Claudio Silva by 20 strikes, man. It was a good form, but Claudio Silva, man, this is one of the dudes who has 4 losses, and his 4 losses have come to 3 in a row. Nicholas Dalby, Court McGee, and James Krause, right? Those are the last 3. And then his other loss was the first loss of his career. But this is a dude who was finishing everybody, man. Massive finishing streak, win streak. But just like, how do you not address your cardio at this point? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think, and it's crazy because you're literally fighting at the highest level. You know, there's 15 minutes. You know, there's not like unless you're for whatever reason planning, I'm knocking this dude out. I know I'm knocking this dude out. Get a new coach, something. I don't really know, man, because it's crazy. I also think it could be an adrenaline dump issue, but by this point, you would think you'd get it under control.
Yeah, you would think so. So, lastly, man, I don't want to even spend too much time on this. I was just very disappointed. Mandy Bohm loses to Victoria Leonardo, and this is 2 losses in a row by the monster, Mandy Bohm. You know what I mean? And Victoria Leonardo she got her arm broken in her first 2 losses, so it's hard to blame her on that one. But when you have a size advantage or reach advantage, you're a kickboxer versus a grappler kinda, and you just fall into the clinch time and time again. It's just poor fight IQ. It just makes you wonder, do you belong at this level? So I'm not trying to down her whatsoever, but I just thought this was a very unimpressive, uninspired performance by Claudio Silva. I mean, not by Claudio. So Mandy Bohm. Sorry, I was looking at ESPN. By Mandy Bohm, very uninspired. But both of them, really. But by Mandy Bohm, very uninspiring performance. And then lastly, man, Muhammad Mokaev does what Muhammad Mokaev does, and he just kind of beats up on Charles Johnson for 3 rounds, 30-27 him, a former LFA champion. Muhammad Mokaev didn't get the finish, man, but he looked like a world beater. And I'll save more Muhammad Mokaev talk for, I guess, in just 1 second when we do this ranking review right here, brother. So let's get it. And now I want to talk about Muhammad Mokaev in the flyweights, bro. I want to talk about what the man can do with his win over Charles Johnson. So, AJ, man, when I pull this up, right, and this is the current flyweight rankings right now, we're looking at, and sorry, I got Sumadarji, highlighted. I was taking a look at him earlier. Tagir Ulanbekov is number 15. Jeffrey Molina, number 14. Manel Kopp, number 13. Amir Albazi hasn't fought in a while, but number 12. Sumadarji, 11. Tim Elliott, 10, right? And then we talk about your Muhammad Mokaev, who says he can't get a ranked dude to fight him because they don't want to fight him. They don't want to accept a bout against him. But when he's fighting these dudes, I mean, if you look at the numbers, Muhammad Mokaev, now 8-0, right? 12 of 26 takedowns, and he still looked like he had more energy and more in the tank at the end of round 3. Like, he was ready to go. If it was a 5-round war, it wouldn't have mattered. 54 total strikes, so he got outstruck by Charles Johnson, but he just kind of beat on, you know what I mean? Charles Johnson for 3 rounds took his back every single round. I mean, his technical proficiency as a grappler is just outstanding. So my question to you is, can you see him doing this to a Manel Kopp, to a Tagir Ulanbekov, to a Sumadarji, a Tim Elliott? Can you see that?
Man, that's rough too, because Manel Kopp, good wrestler as well. Tagir Ulanbekov, good wrestler as well. There's a lot of these, and it seems to be all that same case for every single division, that once you get into the top 15, you got to be very proficient on the ground as well as in the hands. But that's the thing, like you said, Mokaev, he was ready for another 10. He could have easily gone the full 5 rounds, no problem. He had the gas tank, and he had the power. The power stayed consistent the entire fight. I'm kind of thinking he can. It sounds like a stretch. It sounds like a long shot from Mokaev to, you're just looking at him, like looking at all even from the top 10 down, Sumadarji, Tim Elliott, Amir Albazi, Manel Kopp. That's kind of the one where I'm thinking that's going to be one of the hardest fights of him. Same thing, Jeffrey Molina, man, it's still gonna be a rough fight, but I think he can. I think that's where he can live comfortably right now. That top 10 to 15, I can see Mokaev, in there doing work. You get up a little bit above that, that's going to be a little bit more rough, obviously. But yeah, where do you see him living?
I could definitely see him doing work I can even see him literally doing work inside the top 10, depending on the matchup, right? If you're fighting like a David Dvorak, I can definitely see him being able to do some work against a David Dvorak. I think it would be an interesting fight between him and Matt Schnell. Jiu-jitsu versus, jiu-jitsu grappling, the sambo, the Dagestani wrestling. But yeah, you're right, man. Manel Kopp, that'd be interesting. Jeffrey Molina, I think that's the fight to make. Jeffrey Molina, even though he just got called out by somebody, I don't remember who, but Jeffrey Molina and Muhammad Mokaev, I think that's the fight to make. So I would like to see him in that top 15, especially because he's 8-0, right? But it's said that he is, at 21 years old, he has a combined record, and I don't know if this is true, of 30-0 somehow, some way. I don't know how they're calculating this. Is this amateur fights? Like, where is this getting calculated from? Is this other types of fights? But that's what they say. The man's 30-0 at 21 years old, bro. So he's one of the youngest to do it, and he's looking real dangerous, and it looks like not a lot of people, especially with this fight, even though he didn't get a finish with this fight over Charles Johnson, I don't really see why people would just line up to be like, I want to fight that guy. You know what I mean? So I think he can live comfortably in that top 15, which is probably where he should be inserted in our rankings update come next week, most likely, if we're thinking about that. So, all right, that's your 60 seconds rankings review. Quick, short, and sweet, to the point. And now let's talk about the fighter of the night.
Right now, there is not a man on this planet that can stop me inside this octagon. The celebration was more work than the fight.
Fighter of the night.
And I'm interested here, AJ. I want to know who your fighter of the night is, because maybe we can come to a consensus here. And I want to be honest here. Maybe this is the first time that you're hearing this as well, AJ. But this fighter of the night might become a null and void segment on this program here, just because I think that the fighter of the night, while it is beneficial, right? While I do like that it is a unique segment of the program, I do think that it can become a little bit of an overkill, because we give these fighters their praise while we're breaking down their fights. We basically allude to why they might as well be the fighter of the night without actually calling them the fighter of the night. And when we have star-studded performances, maybe not like this card, right? But you have some cards where it's like, I can pick 5 different people and they can all be my fighter of the night. So it's a little tough right there. So maybe we'll make the dedicated program the Prelim Pourover, and then we'll move on to rankings review and kind of cut out the fighter of the night. So if this was one of the last ones, it's up in the air. If it is, Let's make it good, brother. Who is your fighter of the night?
See, so and I was actually having I see where you're coming from, because I was having a hard time thinking of a storyline or thinking of something that I was excited about with some of these fighters. And for me personally, on this fight card, it has to go with one of the fighters that kind of surprised me most of his performance. I'm going Nikita Krylov.
Okay.
Kind of a left field pick, but I'm going Nikita Krylov for the way in which he handled Gustafsson. Coming out blitz attack, coming out with full aggression, full power, literally not giving Gustafsson a chance to breathe. And the only reason, because I was so shocked by how the fight ended. Obviously, a minute 7 knockout, but how that minute 7 played out in the actual X's and O's for Nikita Krylov. Looked good, needed the win, really overlooked in the division, in the 205-pound division. You hear Nikita Krylov, you think, okay, yeah, like mid-pack fighter, probably not someone I really need to pay attention to. This dude's still on a resurgence in his career, looking good, fast fight, powerful, surprised me. So that's why I made him my fighter of the night, man. What about you, Derick? How do you feel about the pick?
I think that's a fair pick, and I almost picked Nikita Krylov because of that same reason. I was like, you don't just knock out Gustafsson like that. You don't knock out the Mauler like that. It's not just as simple as that. Like, people don't just roll their eyes and be like, oh, yeah, you knocked out the Mauler. Like, they're like, oh, shit. Like, everybody was like, he's out like that? Krylov? Oh, okay, right? So, on one hand, super duper impressive. On the other hand, I'm going to tell you who my fighter of the night is, man. And my fighter of the night is Jack Hermansson. And the reason why is just because if you're able to did he have the most exciting fight? No, he did not. We know this. We already talked about this, right? But if you're able to frustrate a world-class striker like Chris Curtis, if you're able to skirt around the cage, inflict your game plan, literally have a dude get so mad he's Nate Diazing you, giving you the double birds, walking out the cage, literally like being like talking shit to you, being like, bro, what's up? Come fight right now. Every time that your game plan would work, he would walk back to the center of the cage, and you didn't entertain it. And for that reason, man, you won a masterclass in terms of a chess match in the technicians in the mind battle right there, and on the X's and O's in the actual fight, man. I just thought Jack Hermansson was so. Like, my other pick for fight of the night would have been Volkan Oezdemir, because it's kind of that same game. You did not play to your opponent's game. You worked your game plan, and that was the end of the story, man. That was that, man. So for the Joker, Jack Hermansson, he needed a big win, 23-7 in his MMA career. He didn't fall into the trap of Chris Curtis, which is come in and let's brawl and let's have this crazy striking battle. You didn't fall into it, man, and you got the win, and that's what matters at the end of the day. So Jack Hermansson, you're my fight of the night, brother. But there are so many people you could choose from. Volkan Oezdemir. You could pick Paddy Pimblett or Molly McCann. Honestly, you probably should pick Molly McCann for back-to-back spinning back elbow KOs. Because even though she's tied for first in company history with most spinning back elbow KOs in the company, right? She's tied with Ricardo Ramos. But Ricardo Ramos didn't do it back-to-back. He did it like 5 fights apart. Molly McCann did it back-to-back. That's impressive. That's impressive. And that is your fighter of the night, folks. So, if the segment is no longer there, enjoy it while it lasted. But, we're always trying to shake it up a little bit, trying to innovate here on this program, constantly improve. You know what time it is. And AJ, I just got a couple things really quickly that we need to talk about, and then we'll get out of here, man. And it's not articles. These are just quick tweets, man. So I just wanted to just show these out. This is the first one. Just give me a quick reaction. Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz confirmed will take place on September 10th at Las Vegas, Nevada at UFC 279 main event. 5 rounds, brother. I doubt that it'll go all 5 rounds, but like I said, sometimes they just throw out the old dogs to pasture, and it seems like that's what they're doing with Nate Diaz here. They do not want the man to leave the promotion on a win. But if he does, that'd be the biggest storyline that there is in MMA right now. So talk to me. What's your reaction?
I have so much nervous energy for this fight. As a Diaz brothers fan, it's like, do you want to see him fight Khamzat? No, but if he wins, oh shit, man, that the eruption from literally the entire West Coast would just be crazy, man. So I saw it get announced. Felt a little bit of a way about it, where I was like, really? Damn, okay. Fuck it. And that's the thing about the Diaz boys. They're down to scrap, even if the fighter is, levels above, if you will. And it's hard to say levels above the Diaz boys, but Khamzat is, man, he's an animal. He's a mauler. And I don't know if Diaz is going to be able, then he's on, I don't know. There's a whole, we'll cover this one when it does, man. But I'm excited. Are you excited, Derick?
No, no. But I will say this: Nate Diaz wasn't expected to win when he fought Conor McGregor either, and when he hit him with the "I'm not surprised," we could see that here. Do I expect to see that? No, I don't. to be honest with you. I think that Hamza just kind of wrestles him and doesn't let him get his game plan. But now we're going to see the jiu-jitsu of Nate Diaz and see how that fares against the grappling of Hamza, man. So that one was announced. Another one that is very important to announce here, we have Darian Weeks set to fight the former 2-time Glory welterweight champion in I didn't put my man Cedric Doumbé. There we go. Let's get the picture. There we go. Cedric Doumbé, man. This dude's a killer. I'm talking about a left hand from hell. He is the Poatan of the welterweight division. You know what I mean? He is the Alex Paeta of the welterweight division. This dude is a beast, and to see that he's coming over to the UFC, it's kind of a huge jump, to be honest with you. But I'm very excited for that one. What do you make of these champion kickboxers coming on over? First, you had Israel Adesanya. Then you got Poatan. Then now you got Cedric Doumbé. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I like it. I love seeing the striking acumen come and cross borders, because so far it's just been dominated by wrestling, dominated by grappling. Now it's about time we see some flashy strikes coming in. We're knocking people's heads off with high kicks, man. I'm very excited.
Absolutely. And then the last piece that I got right here, brother. This is an interesting thing that happened this weekend, man. And I don't know if you saw it. I dropped it in the Slack chat, man. This was at ACA 141. So clearly this is some type of Eastern European promotion. But these two fighters were both disqualified for timidity, making the bout more or less a no contest, right? And so this was a Grand Prix that was taking place right here. And you'll literally see, I'll play a little bit of the video. Hopefully nothing bad happens. No Uncle Dana to patrol on this one. But check this out. So these two fighters, they come in, and they're like, yo, what's happening? And this dude comes in, and he's like, nope, that's it, man. Y'all wasn't over here. Y'all was too afraid to engage, do stuff like this. It was kind of similar to the Oezdemir-Craig fight, right? He's like, yeah, the fight's over. That's it. And boom, done. So what do you think about that? Disqualifying two fighters for a lack of engagement. What do you make of that?
Well, that's why they have those rules in wrestling, man. You gotta stay attacking. If you're running around, nobody wants to watch it. That's why it frustrated Chris Curtis so much, because I mean, if somebody's not going to engage, what are you going to do? I think I also like how firm the guy that walked in and was doing the hand. No, we're done here. Yeah. I gave you your time. You had 4.5 minutes to try to fight each other, and you're done. Yeah. So yeah. I think it's a good call. They don't want to fight. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because that takes you back to like the Pride days where they would give people yellow cards. But with that yellow card, it wasn't just a yellow card. You'd also get part of your purse taken away. So it's like literal penalties. So it's like, that's maybe an interesting little wrinkle you might want to drop back into MMA. But then again, you don't want to force entertainment, you know what I mean? Because it's supposed to be a bout of who's the best mixed martial artist, not a bout of who's the most entertaining. This isn't WWE, but it kind of is at the same time. So, I mean, that is your word on the street, folks. That was your word on the street, so I hope you enjoyed it. And lastly, next week we got Pena versus Nunes #2, brother. And let me just bring up a couple of these fights. You got Pena Nunes. Here, let me zoom in on it a little bit. Pena Nunes championship fight. Assassin Baby versus Kai Kara-France interim flyweight championship. Black Beast versus Sergey Pavlovich. Let's see, Alexandre Pantoja versus Alex Perez, high level flyweight bout. Magomed Ankalaev, Anthony Smith, that's going to be fun. Alex Morono, Matt Semmelsberger, someone's getting knocked out, you know that. Drew Dober, Rafael Alves, Dontel Mays, Hamdi Abdelwahab, I don't know this dude, but we got our research cut in for us right there. Jakar Close, Rafa Garcia, AJ, I know you're going to like that one. This is one you got to watch out for. This is a new opponent, Michael Morales, monster of a fighter right here versus Adam Fujit. Fujit? I'm not sure. But either way, that's going to be fun. This is a dude you got to watch for, Michael Morales. Ji Young Kim, Fire Fist versus Jocelyn Edwards. Nick Negamedianu versus Ihor Poteria. And Orion Kosi versus Blood Diamond, man. It's a stacked lineup here. But I want to just ask you with these bouts. Pena Nunes 2, Moreno Kai Kara-France, Luis Pavlovich, Pantoja Perez, and Ankalaev Smith. Is that $80 worth of a pay-per-view right there?
There's kind of some heat on this, and the thing that was blowing my mind, a lot of these fighters are going like, I didn't even know Derek Lewis was fighting. I love seeing the Black Beast fight. Yeah. It's crazy. $80. It looks like it on paper. Yeah. It looks like it on paper, man. But sometimes it's better to go to your local sports bar and support the people around you.
Yeah, that's what we always promote here. Go to the local sports bar, folks. Go pay your little $5 cover, $7 cover. Go buy a beer and some chips and some dip or whatever, and go watch the fights with a nice crowd, man. So we have a lot to look forward to next week. As it stands right now, folks, this happened once earlier. AJ's literally been in the lead on the money line the entire year. Once earlier, I tied it back up, and then he took the lead again. Back to 0-0, brother. So be on your A game, because I'm coming for you, my man. This is month 7. That means that there's less than 6 months left remaining in this contest. That means that anything can happen at any given time. So, folks, my Twitch right now, we'll see if this thing is going to be back in action, so just remember that. But follow AJ on Twitch, Santa Fe Bomber, twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber. Find us on Instagram at Bloody Water Podcast, on Twitter at Bloody Water Pod, on TikTok at Bloody Water Podcast, or just go to bloodywaterpodcast.com and you can find everything there. Most importantly, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe if you haven't yet. Come on. It's free after all. So listen, that's it for us. AJ, you got any last words for the people?
I think you said it best, Derick. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Y'all already know the whole deal. If you're here at this moment in the video, we love and support you for actually sticking with us this long. Next week's gonna be a banger. And if you followed even the parlays, like our homie Travi that was shouting on Twitch, he followed your 3-fight parlay with the Molly,
Molly, Krylov, Paddy, brother.
You got it, So put it in. Let us know in the comments how much money you're winning. We'll see you next week, man. Because I know the homies are out there winning money. It's a good thing to see, and it's gonna be a fun fight next week, man. Yeah.
There we go. All right, folks. That's it for us. Until next time. Peace.